years old, the narrator of our story is completely broke, freshly dropped out of college, and living in an unfamiliar town. That financial desperation is exactly what drives someone to accept a midnight to 6 a.m. shift at an isolated gas station on rural Kentucky's Route 9. For the first hour and a half of the shift, the job is entirely mundane. Exhausted truck drivers and insomniacs buy energy drinks, avoid eye contact, and leave. When absolute physical isolation meets the heavy exhaustion of a graveyard shift, the human mind and body enter a state of baseline vulnerability. It creates the ideal conditions for an anomalous threat to begin its approach. The hiring manager, a heavyset man named Dale, seems perfectly normal while teaching the narrator how to run the register. But right before he leaves on the first night, the tone shifts as he delivers a rigid operational protocol. Dale lays down 2 non-negotiable rules. First, do not go outside after 2 a.m. for any reason. Second, if someone needs help at the pump after that time, you lie. You tell them the system is down, but you stay inside. These instructions transform the gas station from a roadside convenience store into a fortified safe room. The central question shifts from how to do the job to what specific threat is stalking Route 9. The first encounter happens at exactly 2:14 a.m. on the narrator's third night. The silence of the empty highway is interrupted by 3 slow, deliberate knocks on the front glass. A woman in her mid-30s stands outside. She's wearing a thin jacket in near-freezing February weather, but she isn't shivering. There is no vehicle anywhere in the lot. She simply presses both hands flat against the glass and locks onto the narrator with unblinking eye contact. She asks him to step outside to help with a car that clearly doesn't exist. When he refuses and offers to call for help from behind the counter, she goes completely silent, turns around, and walks straight into the pitch-black tree line. This wasn't a stranded motorist. Her behavior suggests a calculated test of the station's perimeter, an active attempt to lure the target into breaking protocol and crossing the threshold into the dark. Over the second and third weeks, the anomaly shifts its methodology. It abandons the direct verbal lure in favor of silent, prolonged observation. New entities appear: an older man in dark work clothes, and later a teenage boy sitting cross-legged. They position themselves at the absolute edge of the overhead lights, staring at the building, remaining completely frozen for 20 minutes at a time. These figures defy spatial logic. They vanish the moment the narrator looks away. When the police finally respond to a call about the boy, they find an empty lot with no footprints, no tire tracks, and no evidence that anyone was ever there. The phenomenon behaves like an adaptive predator. When a direct approach is rejected, it pivots to sustained psychological pressure, waiting for isolation and paranoia to force the target into a mistake. Rattled by the police visit, the narrator calls Dale. Dale ignores the descriptions of the people in the parking lot and asks only one thing: did any of them come inside, encountered outside? The second employee never made it that far. He disappeared during his shift, leaving behind only his car in the parking lot. The engine was still running, and the door was wide open, but the driver was gone. To Dale, these weren't just company policies. They were the only things keeping the morning shift from finding an idling car and an abandoned register. Approaching week 6, the narrator perfects his defense mechanism: total ignorance. If a knock hits the glass after 2 a.m., he refuses to look up. He keeps his eyes on the counter and waits for 6 a.m. But at 3:30 a.m. on his final shift, the anomaly bypasses the physical barrier. The automatic sliding doors trigger on their own, sliding wide open without any visible physical presence, flooding the store with freezing air from the dark. From just beyond the reach of the interior lights, a whisper drifts through the open doors. It says, "You've seen us every night for 6 weeks. You never let us in. We just wanted you to know. We noticed." When the narrator reports the whisper, Dale's reaction is one of pure terror. In 11 years of managing that station, the entities had never spoken to him. By perfectly denying the phenomenon its usual prey, the narrator's resilience forced the anomaly to change. The silence was broken because the usual hunting tactics had finally failed. The narrator quit that day and relocated to a new city 3 months later, attempting to put as much distance as possible between himself and the woods of Route 9. But moving didn't end the sightings. Years later, he still catches glimpses of perfectly motionless figures waiting at the edge of the light in completely new, entirely unfamiliar urban environments. This leaves a chilling question. Did the entities follow him from Kentucky, or are these anomalies a constant, invisible presence everywhere, only revealing themselves to those who have finally learned how to see them? If this breakdown got under your skin, drop a like and subscribe for more. Lock your doors tonight, because securing the perimeter is entirely useless if you've already let the awareness of the dark into your mind. And whatever you do, don't let them in. See you next week.